NHL regular season recap, night 138. A few real good games tonight, the first of which is the Leafs hosting the Boston Bruins, this classic rivalry game. Decent tonight, not one of the better ones we've seen, though. The Bruins were kind of all over it. First period, Morgan Geekie and Pavel Zacha both scoring within about a 3-minute time frame in the middle of the period. 2-0 Bees after one. Jake DeBrusk would add another in the second to make it 3-0 Bruins. About 4 minutes into the third, John Tavares would make it a 3-1 game, but about midway through the period, once again, Pavel Zacha, his 14th of the year and second of the game, makes it a 4-1 score, and that is how the game would finish up. David Pastrnak was really solid in this one with 3 assists, which is a change from his normal get-up, which is scoring typically, but none tonight for him. Joseph Woll goes 24 for 28, a little over a .921 save percentage. The stats I'm looking at are bugged, so I'm not going to do that math mentally. Jeremy Swayman, meanwhile, very, very good, 32 of 33, a .970 save percentage, one of his best performances of the year to this point. A really anticipated game, a really satisfying wins for Bruins fans. They do not get first place in the division back yet, though, because of the effort the Florida Panthers gave tonight, which we will talk about right now. Now, this Panthers game was another pretty good one. They're taking on the Rangers tonight, for anyone not aware of that one. Will Cooley scores on the power play in the first to make it 1-0 with about 3.5 to go. In the second, though, Sam Reinhart scores back-to-back goals, again, middle of the frame, about 2 minutes apart, and it's suddenly 2-1 Panthers. Chris Kreider, though, before the period ends on a power play of their own, makes it a 2-2 game headed to the third period. And in the third, who but Ryan Lomberg would be the hero for the Florida Panthers. He scores about 6 minutes into the period. Anton Lundell would add an empty netter with just under a minute to go, and it's a 4-2 win for the Rangers, who, thanks to these 2 points, maintained their number 1 spot in the Atlantic Division. Reinhart, of course, the 2 goals, is the first star in this one. Barkov with 2 assists, and Bobrovsky goes 26 for 28 for a .929 save percentage, while Shesterkin goes 25 for 28, just ever so slightly worse, but enough to be the difference in the game, and .893 in the losing effort. This was another very entertaining game. Could very well be a preview of the Eastern Conference Final, depending on how these 2 teams fare in the playoffs, but wouldn't mind seeing more games like this. The Panthers get this round 1, 4-2 is the final. The Blue Jackets hosting the Vegas Golden Knights, and anyone who is backing the Golden Knights in this one is probably having a pretty rough night right now. They lose to the Blue Jackets 6-3. Justin Danforth, Alex Nylander, Mitch Morelli, Mike Morelli, and William Karlsson scoring in the first. It's 2-2 after 1 in the second. Eric Goodbranson would make it a 3-2 game, because that's a guy that scores a ton, right? And then in the third, Alex Nylander with his second, Chandler Stevenson with his 14th, Chinnikah with his 16th, and then Nylander with his third of the game on the empty net, his first career NHL hat-trick, and it's a 6-3 win for the Blue Jackets. Daniil Tarasov was very good in this one, the busier of the 2 goalies, despite the fact that Hill gave up 5. He goes 37 for 40 for a .925 save percentage, probably his best game of the year. Aiden Hill, meanwhile, far from his best game. He goes 27 for 32 for an .844 in a game he's probably going to want back. This is not a good one in general from Vegas. You don't want to give up 33 shots to this Blue Jackets team, but they found a way to do it tonight. They get the result handed to them swiftly. 6-3 is the final. The Blues visiting the Philadelphia Flyers, and despite Philly outshooting St. Louis pretty handily, they're not able to get it done in this one. Scott Laughton does score with just over a minute to play in the first, making it 1-0 after 1. In the second, though, Kevin Hayes against his former team midway through the period scores to make it a 1-1 game, I guess a little closer to the end of the period, 15:47 in. Anyway, 1-1 after 2, the Blues dominating that period, and that's really the only period they outplayed Philly. In the third, they get outshot 14-5, and then in the overtime, 6-1. Jordan Binnington is the reason they won this game. He goes 40 for 41, but before that, in the shootout, it's Jake Neighbors, Morgan Frost, and Pavel Buchnevich, who are the 3 goal scorers. Of course, you guys can do the math on which team scored twice and which one didn't. St. Louis gets this done in the shootout. As good as Binnington was, Ersson was also quite good. He goes 24 for 25, a .960 save percentage, but when you get out-dueled like that, there's not always that much you can do if your team only scores once, and that was the case for him tonight. It's a tough loss for the Flyers. They do drag a point out of it, which is good for their playoff hopes. For the Blues, of course, they needed these 2 points pretty desperately with how Nashville's been playing lately. They get it done 2-1 in a shootout over Philadelphia. The Colorado Avalanche taking on the Chicago Blackhawks, and no, I did not change just for this part of the recap. I had to run to the rink and then run back, and I ended up playing a game, so here we are. Nonetheless, the Avs whipped the crap out of the Chicago Blackhawks to nobody's surprise, though it was a little bit closer than the scoreboard may indicate. Again, 5-0. McKinnon, Duran, Makar, Parise, and a second from McKinnon are the goal scorers. But Eustace-Sandin had to stop 37 shots in this one, the same number of shots that were faced by Peter Mrazek. Mrazek, of course, giving up 5 on those 37. That's good for give me 1 second, 865 save percentage, while Annunen goes, again, 37 for 37. That is a perfect save percentage. His second consecutive shutout against the Blackhawks. A good little stretch that he's on lately. It's good to see. Give Georgiev some rest, get him ready for the playoffs. All good stuff there from Colorado. McKinnon also had 2 assists on top of his 2 goals. He was a monster tonight. Makar with an assist as well. Just a dominant performance on the score sheet from the Avs to nobody's surprise. This is a team in Chicago that they should be beating every time they play them this year, and they just add to it in this one. It's a 5-0 final here for the Avs over the Blackhawks. The final game of the night, the Kraken visiting Calgary, and this one was a pretty good one with some big playoff implications. After tonight, both of these teams tied at 65 points apiece. Calgary and Seattle both at 61 games played as well. Yanni Gourde opens the scoring in the first. Andrei Kuzmenko would tie it about 7:50 into the second, and then a few minutes after that, Oliver Bjorkstrand makes it 2-1 Seattle, headed into the third, where just 21 seconds in, Adam Larsson extends the lead to 3-1. Kuzmenko gets his second of the game, 7:45 into the third, to make it a 1-goal game once again, but 12:29 in, Jared McCann with a short-handed breakaway opportunity. He buries it, and that is the final goal of the game here. It's a 4-2 victory for Seattle. Philip Grubauer was very, very good in this one. 35 for 37. A lot of teams getting 37 shots tonight. A 946 save percentage, while Markstrom just goes 26 for 30 for an 867 in the losing effort. Both of these teams now 7 points behind Nashville for that last wildcard spot. They're not out of it yet. They, of course, still have some ground to make up, but we'll see what happens for both of them, more specifically for Calgary over the next few days with the trade deadline looming here on Friday. Will Hanifin be moved? Will Markstrom be moved? Will anybody else be moved from this team that was supposed to be a seller but still kind of in the mix in the playoffs? It'll be a very interesting next few days for sure. But that's going to be it for NHL regular season recap, night 138, I believe. We will talk to you guys tomorrow for a few more games, a lot of which still have playoff implications. Get some rest. We will talk to you guys then.